1962. Razitall had written a screenplay called The Best Man. A cattle call went out to Hollywood to play the role of an unscrupulous, pretty, mean-spirited son of a bitch who would rise to become the President of the United States. There was one actor in Hollywood who wanted this so badly he could taste it. He was 49 years old at the time. He said, I'm the perfect age. I've got the perfect look. I dress appropriately. I sound terrific. This is my role. And he took the script and he worked it every day. And then he showed up in front of the casting director. He didn't need the script. He was prepared. He was ready. It was his role. All they had to do was give it to him. And as he read perfectly, the casting director waved her hand and said, you just don't have the presidential look. You can leave now. He said, what? I don't have the presidential look? Now, he wanted that role when he walked in. When he walked out, he had to have it. You know what was going on in his head, don't you? As he walked out that door? You know exactly what was going on in his head. You miserable, backwoods, fly-scratching, bottom-feeding, blood-sucking, parasitic cesspool. You don't know what you're doing. I don't have a presidential look. And he spent the next 18 years of his life, because he had to have it, getting that presidential look. One can only imagine the look of that casting director's face in 1980 when the actor who didn't have the presidential look, Ronald Reagan, became the President of the United States. You don't get out of life what you want. You get out of life what you have to have. Which brings me to Dean Hampton. In 1933, the Securities and Exchange Commission, also known as the Antichrist, passed a series of laws to protect people during the Great Depression. And basically the laws said only accredited investors and venture capitalists can invest in private equity. Nobody else. If you want unregistered securities, you better make at least $200,000 a year and have at least $1 million of net worth, not including your home. Or you're not an accredited investor, and you're going to stay the hell away from that. So most of the American population in 1933 was eliminated from investing in private equity. And it didn't change until on October 30th, 2015, to accommodate crowdfunding, the SEC changed the law. And to accommodate crowdfunding, they basically said, okay, even as a non-accredited investor, you can invest in unregistered securities. But no one knew what to do with this. I mean, what a boon. The whole country can buy private equity. The whole country can do what only people like me could do. Nobody else, everybody could do it now. Until Dean Hampton came along. Dean built a platform to accommodate crowdfunding. So every entrepreneur in America, including the people sitting here in this room, can sell a piece of their company, a piece of their project to any investor. Approved by the SEC. Approved by FINRA. The two of them together I refer to as Satan and the Antichrist. That barrier to entry, I don't think anyone else would have the time, the ability, the communicative skills to do what Dean Hampton did. Think about this. Kickstarter, a donation crowdfunding model, raised $2.2 billion in the last 8 years. $2.2 billion. He's not a donation model. He's an equity crowdfunding model. By my numbers, my number crunching, multiply that $2.2 billion by at least 10. Those are the kind of numbers that we're talking about. When I asked Dean, why do you want to do this? I thought I was going to get the answer. We can make a lot of money. And you know my views about that, right? He didn't say that. Dean said to me, I want to champion small business. I want to go out there and champion the little business that has never been able to raise capital before. And I said to myself, this guy doesn't want it. He has to have it. Someone who will not be denied, Dean Hampton.
So we're very excited at Razitall about this transformation in the equity markets. This is the first time since 1933, as Stephen mentioned, that you have been allowed to publicly go out to unaccredited investors. You've always been able to go to your friends and family, but you could never put an advertisement out there. You could certainly never go out to a broad community and raise money for ownership in your business. Now, Kickstarter made a big change, right? When Kickstarter came along, they said, I'm starting a business and I need help. I need funding, so I'll make some t-shirts. You'll give me 20 bucks, I'll give you a t-shirt. It's only a $2 t-shirt, but you have the affinity of association with the item or the product or the brand that you're contributing to. Now that was a big shift. Affinity investing, most people didn't think would work. Most people didn't think that giving money to someone because you believed in what they were doing or you believed in the vision that they had was going to be highly successful. Kickstarter was worth in 2013 almost $1 billion in their valuation. Now they took an approach at that point to become a benefit corporation and shifted direction, and they're now half that price. They're not really fighting for profits anymore, they're fighting for benefits for community and society. So that's interesting to me because that's the biggest player in crowdfunding today, and they are not approaching the equity crowdfunding market. Now there's a reason for that. Generally, the understanding of how you sell equities means all of the complexity of dealing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, dealing with FINRA, the complexities of figuring out how to move money and complete transactions. And there is a way of doing that. Brokers do that today. So when my competitors came online to look at Kickstarter, they tried to enable that broker model and bring it to the masses in that kind of form. It has some limitations. It was really designed for a much more close-to-close, face-to-face type of interaction. And we believe that it's going to be a model much closer to Kickstarter in the end. It's going to be something that has much lower barriers to entry, and that's where we think we shine. So I'm Dean Hampton. I'm here to raise $2 million for my company, Razitall. We do equity crowdfunding. Okay? I want to tell you a little bit of the background. So I love building online communities. That's what I do. I've worked with McGraw-Hill, I've worked with eMusic, I've worked with Merrill Lynch and Bank of America, I've worked with Scholastic, and I'm very good at helping somebody to interact with a product or a service online and then be able to transact and purchase that product or service. I'm very good with user experience, and after I left my Wharton degree and my investment banking job 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I really put myself passionately into this online world. I learned about web servers, I learned about security. I learned about how to integrate these systems into the giant ERP systems that these large companies had. That became my passion, was building these solutions and being able to deliver them to a community. One of the successes I had was a site where I built for McGraw-Hill. We did $50 million in books year one. So if you build it right and you can reach the audience, the uptake can be phenomenal. We're positioning for the same type of thing with Razitall. What's the problem? I've mentioned it once or twice, but it's unaccredited investors and unfunded entrepreneurs do not have the ability to get funding and participate in the rich world of private equity. Our solution changes that. We want to make it so easy that you can come and try it and fail over and over again and learn. We also want to make sure that you don't have to learn regulatory, you don't have to learn legal, you don't have to hire a lawyer in order to be able to do this. You can just, like the Kickstarter model showed, you can come to the site, set up your story, you can open it to an audience, they can very easily interact and decide whether they want to participate or not. And our mission is not to just do that in Silicon Valley and New York City. That's where all of the new businesses come from today. We want to be able to do this in Omaha, where the capital and VC and angels are not available, the lawyers who know the SEC are not available, but we still want to be able to reach that person, get their idea, be able to present it out to the public, and find the proper support for it. So I'm going to take you through a couple of slides here on my presentation. I hope to, anyway. Okay, so the most interesting thing here is now all investors. And instead of the 1%, you've now multiplied the potential investment audience 100-fold. That's a significant change in terms of the opportunity to participate and move money and create a capital market around this. We focus on a couple of key things: flexibility and managing risk. We know that these are key to be able to make the free open market work properly. We have a couple of investment models, but one of the things that's most important is that we have a standard pitch template. Today, you may have heard of the SAFE instrument, which is the ability for someone to create their own terms in a relatively simple document, and it's replacing a lot of the convertible note work for smaller funding. The problem with SAFE is it's too flexible. I can say, gosh, I'm going to pay out for a year or two, and then at the end of the 2 years, your equity is valueless. It becomes very hard to compare different opportunities across the market because of that openness and flexibility. We know we need some flexibility. We need people to be able to come in and offer ownership, offer royalties, offer a one-time payout venture type of a project financing model, as well as pre-sale to sort of test the market and find out whether that's working. But our standard pitch template binds that in a certain way so that we can actually look at 1,000 pitches and you can look at the way risk is being managed in the different pitches. We don't restrict your ability to set your own terms. We still think it's important when somebody walks onto Shark Tank, they say, I'm giving away this much of my company for this price. You can still set your terms in our model, but we don't allow some of the funny financing that can go on under the SAFE, and our competitors are using those mechanisms to offer. So this is a key thing that's a differentiator for us. We accept credit cards to purchase securities. Is that buying on margin? Many of you may be asking in your mind. It's not buying on margin.
Not at all.
The SEC was very explicit about this. Because of the volume of transactions is large and the size of those transactions is smaller in our world, credit card is an absolutely acceptable vehicle. When the Jobs Act came out and they prescribed the laws, and when crowdfunding finally, on October 30th, 2015, became law, the same rule was set. You are allowed to use a credit card to purchase securities. Now that's all well and fine as long as you can find a merchant who's willing to take those credit cards in a security business. We're a high-risk merchant, and it took us 25 different merchant applications before we finally found someone who would sit down with us, let us talk to their underwriting group, and actually assess the risk appropriately and decide on, whether this could be supported or not. We were very lucky. We work with Vantiv. Vantiv's the #2 credit card processor in the United States today. They were an extension of Fifth Third Bank out of Ohio, and have now become large enough that they've broken off and become their own entity. That's a big shift. I have 21 other competitors in this industry. None of them approached FINRA to talk about credit card payments. So this is sort of our motto, right? You have to surround yourself with the people that believe in your idea. The problem today is you have to meet 1,000 people to find one. In our world, we make it easier to be able to reach a broad audience and really single out those individuals that have that affinity with you, that already understand the market. It's what I'm looking to do right now here with this audience, is find out if any of you have that same affinity, to be able to connect with us, understand what our vision and what we think is going to happen in the future. We know there's a lot of new businesses that come into the States today. We know almost all of them are being produced in New York and California. We're not serving the Midwest audience. We're not building new businesses. We're not finding ways to support and create that. Seed Invest is having, one of my competitors, 400 applications a week they have. The other choice that my challengers, my competitors, are making is that they are doing the curation themselves. Now what Kickstarter proved is you don't have to do that. The crowd knows how to curate better than you do, better than the experts. In fact, we provide a forum on our site so that people can actually put comments in, they can get updates from the entrepreneur, and they can have conversation between each other. And we have found through the Kickstarter experience that they are better at identifying the winners and the losers than anyone. So we let them curate. We allow the crowd to curate. It means we field a lot more pitches than our competitors. We have, our competitors right now are successfully completing more than 50% of the pitches they put on their platform, successfully funding them. Our marker is close to 33%. We expect to be able to capture $49 million this year, year one, of the industry, which is growing worldwide at more than 100% year over year. We expect that to continue for a couple of years. We take 5% out of the deal. It's a fair rate. We believe it's a fair rate. It's what we've seen across the market for years and years in terms of if we're doing the introduction, we should get 5%, no more, no less. It would represent $2.4 million in revenue year one. We expect significant 100% growth year over year on this. And our goal is to get to $1 billion in transactions. As Stephen said, this could be a $20 billion market. Now, that's believing that the affinity crowdfunding, where you're giving your money away and getting a t-shirt, is going to be only 1/10 the size of the real market when this opens up and you can now invest and own a piece of that company. We really think there's going to be a much stronger magnetism to these pitches because of that change. So the other thing that we do that I think is really different than our competitors is we enable regulatory. We recognize the challenge of regulatory. We know how much time it takes to learn how to fill out and file a registration with the SEC for your offering. We've taken that pain away. If you come to our site and you answer all the questions we ask you to fill out your pitch, we are then able to generate the Form C on your behalf. And we are able to file it with the SEC on your behalf. My competitors, when you talk to them, will say, oh yes, we can help you with that too, for a fee of $2,500 to $10,000. Now, very few people have that kind of money. When you're trying to trial your idea, you're trying to trial evaluation, you're trying to trial a business idea, and you're trying to reach out and find out if there's an audience for it. To have that kind of upfront barrier. In my world, you don't have to have any money. You can come if this is a new entity with no business history. I don't even need financial statements. You can come present, show me what your idea is on a Saturday afternoon. We'll file it on Monday, and we can have you launched on Monday night. So it changes the barrier for a new entrepreneur. Now, if you realize the people who are young entrepreneurs, people who have an entrepreneurial idea but don't want to go out and raise funding just to do funding. And a lot of the people we've run into in this space are doing that. They're going out and they're asking for friends and family $20,000 so that they can pay the lawyers and the regulatory just so that they can put up a pitch and try and raise money. So it's a little bit backwards, and we're trying to add some grease to that. Allow people to smoothly and easily move into the market and move out of the market. We have a culling process, which we use. So a little bit of our history, we started 4 years ago. We worked on the product design and regulatory for 2 years. Then we brought in developers and actually built it. And we also started getting heavy into legal at that point. A year ago, we hired a formal chief compliance officer and a lead marketing person in order to be able to make sure we were strategically prepared to launch. We are now ready to launch. If we can gather the funding that we're looking for, from the time we get the funding, we are 2 weeks from being able to go out to the market. Now, that means we're pre-revenue. We are an opportunity pitch. But we're somewhat unique because we have had to go out and get FINRA's approval, which took us 6 months. Our competitors, it took 3 months. But they didn't get some of the things we got. They didn't get credit cards. They didn't get the Form C stuff worked out. So it took us longer. We had to work harder to get FINRA to support us and to say, yes, in fact, everything's ticked and tied, you can go. And we see those things as the real value. The value of the platform itself, which I'll show you a demo in just a minute. We have a strong team. This is my partner, co-founder. She works for Apple Marcom, and she designed our website. So it gives us a very powerful website. You'll get to see a little bit of that as we go. And we believe in 5 years we can get to $1 billion in transactions. That is slower than Kickstarter did it, by the way. We're trying to be conservative in terms of the growth chart. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about the Form C. It's one of the key items. We actually help them and facilitate getting the Form C through the process. We also facilitate them getting through the transaction process using credit cards. You don't have to put money into an escrow account and then put it into a pitch that maybe is going to fail, leave your live money sitting there waiting to find out if something's going to happen. Turns out it didn't. They moved the money back to the escrow. In our world, you give us a credit card, and we don't move any money unless the pitch actually closes. So it allows us ease of access to get entrepreneurs onto the site. It allows us ease of interaction with the investors when it becomes time to do transactions. All right, so I'm going to give you a couple points on how we did it, because these were basically the things that allowed us to position ourselves for success in the way that we have described today. So we worked with FINRA and the merchant bank to get the agreements in place so we can move credit cards. We worked with the SEC to address the regulatory so we could file the Form C. The standardized template, which we talked about as a key differentiator feature. And then one other unique thing, we knew that credit cards and Form C, our competitors are going to catch up with us there. So we added one additional thing. We worked with FINRA to get approval to auction securities. None of our competitors even asked the question. But basically what this means is, when you reach the limit that we've established of 2,000 investors, the 2,000 first investor has to bid more than somebody on that list, the lowest bid on that list. If they bid more, we're going to take that person out and we're going to add the new person. We're going to notify them and ask them to come back in and outbid somebody else. Now that allows us a pretty dynamic game to go on a popular pitch. Our other competitor platforms are reasonably stale or generally flat. So we do dynamic pricing. If you come in and you want to raise $100,000 and Jake wants to raise $200,000, your minimum bid is going to be $50. Because if I take $100,000 and I divide it by 2,000 members, your minimum bid is $50. His minimum bid is going to be $100. It's going to be twice that. Somebody comes in and bids, some big bidders come in early on his pitch, the minimum bid is going to start to drop because he no longer has that same relationship, right? If he only needs $150,000 and he's still got 1,900 bidders, his price is going to drop from 100 and it's going to start to go down 90, 80, 70. As soon as it hits the bid war, we call the auction model, that price is going to start moving up. So we have this ability to have an interesting price marker that actually relates to the support of the pitch. Those two things make our world different and more interesting, and it allows us to stay ahead of the competition at the start. We know that those are differentiators. We know we'll have to continue to innovate to be the leaders in the market. There's no special IP here. There's no special sauce. I can't trademark our process. We just have to be out there, market ourselves aggressively, and be competitive against our competition. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about our marketing and how we look at the world of marketing. It's really two pieces. We know we need to have a great partner. So Blue Fountain Media has agreed to work with us. They don't work with startups, but they saw our opportunity, looked at the market, came back the next day and said, all right, we'll take you. So we have a very strong, one of the top 10 digital marketing partners on Madison Avenue. The other thing we have is we have Sean. We have Sean McCormick. We need to reach millennials. The only way that's going to work is if we can actually relate to them in a marketing way that's not fake. It's got to be authentic. Sean is one of the most authentic people I know. Sean McCormick is seen here sky surfing. And he actually, every week, jumps into some stadium, lands in Las Vegas. He's on the Red Bull Air Force. And we are allowed to co-brand with them, and Red Bull has signed off on it. We're not competitive, so they allow us to brand his board and brand his person as he goes through the world of Red Bull, which is wonderful in terms of marketing, and he's in an event every week or two, somewhere where he's getting camera exposure. I'm going to let you meet Sean a little bit more directly. This is going to take a minute and 50 seconds. We did a trial on an event. We were not ready to launch. This wasn't strategic. This was, hey, let's put the name out there and see what kind of coverage we can get. So.
Now we turn to a team taking things to new heights, literally launching into stomach-churning, possibly deadly stunts. Sky surfing into the belly of a thunderstorm, not just for thrills, but to capture the perfect shot.
It feels more like my sport bike.
So the big question is why?
In all my time training, what we're doing here is the one experience that I've had that wasn't really able to get chronicled properly.
But for extreme athletes like Sean, carefully coordinated Red Bull stunts like these are also about the bragging rights, getting that perfect video. Not easy, especially when lightning is involved. Are you aware of just how dangerous it is, lightning-wise?
I am. I have experience doing these, so like I've been in this environment before and it worked out fine.
70% of all lightning doesn't even hit the ground, it's hitting the cloud. When you do this and there's flashes going off, what do you think is going to be going through your head?
I think a lot of focus on that moment because it's all pretty quick. I think you'd be amazed at how calculated this mission is.
This cloud kind of moved in and started just lighting up the sky.
Sean and the team get what they've been waiting for. A true thunderstorm, a massive cumulus cloud, the perfect backdrop.
It's the opportunity to show a really amazing, beautiful place on this earth that anybody could daydream about and no one can get to go see.
Now that is storm chasing.
You can go out to our website today, it's razitall.com. I'm bringing up the QA version, but there's a public version. It has 2 pages. The home page where you can read about us, and the Raise Money landing page, which is more of an education on how you raise money. What you won't see on the site that's up today is the discovery. You will not be able to look through pitches because we haven't launched yet. We're looking to launch, gather those pitches, and then present them. In our world here, we have a tile that represents a pitch. If I open it up, you'll see the details of the pitch. It includes a video. It includes some header information. That's the key information about this pitch and where it is in its fundraise process. It has a video link, a little bit about the person who's the entrepreneur, and the pitch itself. Rich visual imagery with rollovers so that you can get your message in there if you want to add a message in here. And what we call our 6 panels, which includes target market, production plan, spending plan, return details, which is the return you're offering, financial status, which is a lot of the details of the financial state of the company today, and the risks and challenges that you're facing. We include some links for marketing if you have them, and a quick note at the bottom to say, hey, here's why you should bid. Now I can track a pitch. I can track it, and it'll say, okay, it'll ask me to sign in, of course. And then I can track a pitch. The normal interactions you would expect. I can share a pitch with my friends. I can look at the updates that the investor has provided. I can see the investors and actually see the tiles of the investors who have bid on this pitch so far. When I bid on the pitch, we make this as easy as possible. Basically, I'm going to have to add a payment method here. All right, so add a payment method, decide how much you want that to be. Sorry, I'm not good without my mouse. It's the name, it's the amount you're paying, and it's the payment method. I'm not gathering your social security number. I'm not gathering your driver's license. I'm not doing an AML check on you before you decide to do a bid. We're taking all of that broker work out of the way. We still have to deal with it at some level. So compliance is still watching and managing and monitoring. And we may message a user as a result of that. But largely, this is about 3 clicks. I would say place bid, I click on my payment method and my amount, and then I can place that bid. So we want to make that process as seamless and as easy as possible. When you finally do connect and engage with things, we have a dashboard. This is something our other competitors haven't thought about, but we want broad interaction. We don't want you to come on our platform and invest in one pitch and hope. We want you to give small amounts of money to lots of pitches. Diversify your risk. And that really gives you a chance to have something pop and go big. So the design, I think, is very clean. I think you can get a sense of why my partner was hired by Apple. It's light, it's clean, it's easy to use, it's clickable. It works as well in a small screen as it does in a large screen. You'll notice the entire navigation just changed. So you can do this on your phone, you can do this on your tablet, you can do this on your tablet portrait or landscape, full screen. So, quick summary, we wanted to be able to reach the market that capital is not serving today. We really want to be able to reach small investors, underfunded entrepreneurs, and bring those ideas out to the masses, see what sticks, see what works, and allow people to participate using small investments to have a big impact. So that's it for today. Thank you so much.